it's for real.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boys.
What's up, guys? It's Hollywood Hambone here to talk about another movie. Just got out of the movie theater actually not long ago. I was around some people with COVID, but I went and got tested and came back negative. Hooray. So all that stuff, and I'm now fully vaccinated, so I'm able to go to the movie theaters. And obviously, there's not a lot of people going there right now, so I feel pretty safe. I mean, I can keep a pretty good distance away from everybody that's going at this moment, especially if I go earlier in the day. But anyway, so I went and saw a particular movie, kind of excited for because I like the original. And that movie is Don't Breathe 2. Don't Breathe 2 is a movie that's obviously it's a sequel to Don't Breathe. They came out a couple years ago. The director on this one is Rodo Sayag. I'm going to say this name so wrong. Rodo Sayagis. All right, so whatever. So we have him as a director, but he's also a guy who he's also did Don't Breathe, and he did Turn Around, and he's part of the Evil Dead, like the newest one that came out. You obviously have the writers Fede Alvarez, and also the director is also, I'm not even going to try to say his name again. You got stars Stephen Lang, Madeline Grace, and Brendan Sexton, to name just a few of the top stars that was involved in this movie right here. But yeah, man, the movie was pretty good. Liked it overall, but let's talk about a couple things. The biggest fears going into this movie was a simple fact of, like, you could see from the trailers that they were going to try to almost look like they were going to try to redeem this man. Where in then the first movie, you know, he's kind of innocent at first because we have these, like, you know, early 20s or maybe early 30s people coming into his home unwanted. So, and then he goes and he starts to basically taking care of his home and defending his home. But later in the movie, you find out that there was this lady who was like a drunk driver or whatever that, like, hit his family's car, killed his wife, killed his daughter, killed his daughter. And so, like, part of his revenge was he went and captured her, hung her up in the basement, and was trying to impregnate her with one of the most controversial and, like, this nasty scenes where he's got a turkey baster and trying to impregnate the lady so that he can get his daughter, basically get something to replace his daughter that he had lost. And so because of that, you know, it's not even technical. Like, some people try to say technical, whatever. This pure out rape. Like, in the movie, one of the most controversial lines is the bad guy saying, like, this isn't rape. I didn't force myself on anyone. Kudos for you, guy, but you're wrong. Like, anytime you do anything, like whether you're using a turkey baster or whatever, that's still rape. So, like, that part did happen in the movie. So you learn that this guy is like this evil guy. Like, he's not good. Even though his house is getting broken into, these people broke into the wrong house of this guy that actually is pure evil himself. You know, when you step across those lines and start doing things like that. So one of the fears a lot of people had was they trying to make this dude, like, kind of glorify this guy because, like, he survived the first movie. We obviously got a part 2 here. And now it seems like, you know, they're trying to make him the anti-hero or a good guy, whatever you want to call it, right? Try to turn him up face from heel, right? Like, so he's this bad guy, and in this movie you try to redeem him a little bit. And what that dude was doing, you really can't be redeemed. You can't be redeemed for that kind of stuff, right? Like, that kind of stuff right there, you've gone too far. So that's one of the biggest fears going into this movie. As we progress, I'll kind of talk about it a little more and everything else, like what I thought maybe they probably didn't do as good of, or, you know, didn't go far enough with. But let's see. There are some things that I do like about this movie. I think a movie like this has to be brutal. Like, it has to have some brutal death scenes. It certainly did. There's an explosion that kills one guy. Oh, man, pretty close to the beginning of the movie. There's a lady that helps deliver some plants and stuff for the guy from Don't Breathe. That's how he's making his money, is he's selling these plants he's growing in a greenhouse. and there's a brutal death scene with a hammer. So they, it's one of those things to where you get into a movie like this, you have to show that these guys that you're going to portray as the bad guys are really something to be scared of. And this dude like shows no limits. He gets into her van without her knowing it and surprises her and just beats her to death with a hammer. And it's pretty brutal. Like, it's up there. They don't show every little second, obviously, but it's pretty brutal. It's up there. Like, so with that being said, like the whole sequence too, with after that, they obviously go to the house. You find out they're kind of going after the girl, not even really caring about the blind man, the main character, but they going after the girl that thinks that the blind man is her father, right? So like, something's going on here. Like, man, there's no way. Like, he was trying to just impregnate the woman, so none of that stuff could have happened. So like, why does this girl think that he's her father and stuff? And as the story goes and progresses, you find out that the lead male that's going into the house to try to kidnap her is actually her real father. Her real father and her real mother was people that were dealing with meth at the time, and the house caught fire. The mom got the dad. You think the mom's possibly dead or whatever, because that's the house that's burnt down that she goes to at one point in the movie and tries to like pay her respects or whatever to her dead mother. Comes to find out her mother ain't dead. You find that out later in the movie. But the main bad guy, or the guy trying to kidnap her, turns out to be her real father. So at one point you're like, well, these dudes ain't that bad. This dude's trying to get his kid back, by whatever means necessary. So it kind of does like take you on a roller coaster of, okay, these are hooligans, and then whatever. Then you find out, well, now, man, like, that's her dad trying to get her back. So, and he's trying to get her back from this dude that we know is an evil from the first movie. So it does kind of like make you go like this, and this, like what's going on a little bit. But that whole scene of them trying to get into the house, trying to get the girl, that whole, like, I think it probably was about 30 minutes of the movie, was super good, actually. That's a super great part of the movie. Just with a bunch of different things that goes on, like the fights. You think the Don't Breathe guy from the, you think the main character here, the blind man, is so strong and powerful from the last movie because of what he was able to do. But in this movie, he actually lost some conflicts. Like, he didn't like just go in there and dominate and devastate like he did a couple of the characters in the first movie. So he was actually getting hurt, and he was actually losing a couple of the fights. So that was actually kind of cool. I like the way they did that, because it made it look like one side wasn't just, oh, he's going to win every fight and every complication he's in. He's going to come out scot-free. That ain't what happened. As everything's going on and those scenes are happening and all that, he had a dog. Well, his dog ends up getting killed, getting shot by the guys trying to come into the house, and everything else. Well, the dude who actually is in charge, the girl's real father, he has a dog with him as well. They sent him in last resort to try to hold back the blind man. Blind man has a conversation with the dog. The dog kind of gets him trapped at one point in the area. Looks like the blind man's going to shoot him, and he doesn't. Lucky for him, he doesn't. And that kind of thing. So they kidnap the girl. They get her in the truck. They get her away. And the blind man, they set the house on fire. Blind man survives and like gets away, and the dog comes out as well, and that ends up how he finds out where his like presumed daughter is because he gets a couple of supplies and everything else, and then he gets the idea the dog could take him home, and which is kind of crazy and kind of cheesy. I wish they would have came up with a different way for him to find out where they were, because that part right there was kind of a little cheesy. And so he goes back, he finds out, and like I said, in most of these reviews, I'm not going to tell you every little thing. I'm going to go over with a couple things in the movie, but like pretty much the very end sequence is he finds out they're in this like abandoned kind of hotel they've got power and stuff at, and it turns out that they've been trying to get like organs and stuff like that, because the gentleman's it turns out the little girl's mom's still alive, but she's like in very drastically needs like a heart transplant, because when the house caught fire with the meth stuff, the chemicals like was killing her on the inside and stuff, and she needed a transplant. She had to have one. They tried to use other donors, or were going to try to use other donors, but they couldn't, because it pretty much had to be somebody who was like closely related to her, who's better than her daughter. So this is when you find out that like, nah, this isn't a dude. Like he seemed kind of okay. Like you knew there was something about him, but he seemed kind of okay. He's even telling her like you're not in prison anymore. Like you're free to go if you want to go. She goes to leave. That's when the mother interacts with her for the first time, and she finds out her mom's alive. But then you find out soon after that literally they were trying to kidnap her and have her so that they could transplant the little girl's heart into the mom, which is stupid. Like, bro, wait, come on, man. Come on, dog. Now they're the enemy. Now they're the bad guys. And the blind man basically has a big long sequence too, where he's coming into this hotel, takes out certain people or whatever, and to try to save the girl. The biggest thing in this movie overall is like there's this girl who's very innocent. Like she was born in a bad situation with these meth heads for parents. And then she has this guy who's not even good himself that like gets her. And the only reason why he gets her is like because he's trying to make like amends for what he's done that was wrong in the past, right? Like he's trying to make it up, right? Like he lost his daughter. This is something that he could do. Maybe if he like helps this girl out, and becomes like a dad to her, maybe he can try to redeem himself a little bit. The biggest key though is like he's not able to like really redeem himself, and when it comes down to it, there's no way that he could really redeem himself. Like he even at pretty close to the end of the movie, like he gets stabbed and stuff like that in a bad place, and he's obviously bleeding out and everything. And he's saying like, no, I'm a monster, like I've killed people. And he even admits like one of the bad things about the first movie, like I told you at the beginning, was that he didn't feel like he was raping because he was using syringe to do it and not like his body. But then now he admits at the end of this movie that like what he did was rape, right? Like he admits to it. He says like, I've raped, I committed murder. You need to go. So like he's telling the girl like, you need to leave. You don't need to stay with me anymore. Like he's kind of admitting and like, so basically the way I take it is that he's this guy who maybe was okay and everything. He was in the military. He lost his sight and all that. His family was still with him. But then he had a very tragic thing happen where his daughter, especially, that's the one he truly 100% cared about more than anything in the world, dies. And he's just trying to replace her. Like he goes through this fit of like just devastation. And he makes these super terrible wrong decisions. And now he's like realizing, oh yeah, like, bro, I went too far. I do not need to be part of this girl's life because I'm not the person to do that. So that's a little bit of a redemption, but like at the same time, there's no way to be redeeming somebody from like something as horrible as he was trying to pull in his basement in the first movie. So like, I do like the fact that this guy, like he gets, basically what was coming to him in the end. The only redeeming part is like he actually did admit now that like he's committed these horrible crimes and everything else and things that he shouldn't have done. But at the same time, just because you admit to something doesn't mean that it erases what you did, doesn't mean that you aren't a bad guy, right? Like, so that's the thing, right? Like the redemption part of this movie doesn't work, but I don't think the director was trying to make it work. But other than that, this movie was like, let's say if this movie didn't have the first movie involved in it and you were just watching this movie by itself, like I think this movie could almost be its own thing. It's not like you really necessarily have to watch the first movie. The only thing that you get by watching the first movie is realizing how kind of badass this guy is, even though he's blind. And because you watch that, you understand where he's coming from and all that. But I will say that this movie overall, like obviously I like Don't Breathe, the first one, even though it does have that really, almost makes you want to hide your eyes or puke or something there, because it's kind of a bad little thing. But that's one of those things, like in the movies though, like in these horror style dark movies, you really do have to like sometimes push the edge a little bit. Maybe don't go too far, but like you're trying to get as far as you can without going too far. And that one's borderline what they did in the first movie. And they probably didn't even really need it to be in the first movie. Because if you take away the fact that he had that girl trapped in the basement and he was this guy that lost his daughter and like these people were coming in to rob him and stuff, and then like, he takes them out and all this stuff. Like in this movie, he could have been a complete, like kind of like a good guy character, just one that's pretty hardcore and not going to let you get away with anything. But because of what they did in the first movie and those choices, and this movie trying to just do the redemption, I think was probably a little too far. Like when I saw the previews and y'all saw my trailer reaction for this, like I was like, hey, don't draw conclusions just because they are acting like in the trailer that this guy's going to be sort of like a hero, maybe trying to like save this little girl's life. Doesn't mean that's what they're going to do totally in the movie. Well, that is kind of what they totally do. They just don't super redeem him, if you see what I'm saying. It's not like a Kylo Ren redemption here. It's kind of like, okay, dude at least realizes what he did was wrong. A little too late for him. He probably shouldn't have stepped that far. He's still going to pay those consequences, which he does. But overall, the movie, I think, is still okay. I still like this movie. I just can't give it a super high score. This movie, I'm rolling around a 6. 5 is right dead in the middle. I do mine 1 through 10, baby. 1 being super terrible. Like 10 being like, I think this movie is almost perfect. 5 is right dead in the middle where I'm lukewarm. I don't like or dislike. Just like, man, I don't know. I just fall like right in the middle. I don't have a feeling either way. So at a 6, I overall like this movie, but it's just a barely like this movie, right? Like it's not deep into the scale to where I can almost say I love it or whatever. I like the movie. I did enjoy it. I don't hate the fact I went and seen it at the movie theaters. If you like the first one, I think you can enjoy this movie because there's a lot of cool stuff in there. You may disagree with certain plot points or whatever they do in the movie and choose. Like I have a little bit of a problem with the redemption part of this in this movie and stuff. And I thought like the dog thing, like I said earlier, like where he uses a dog to be able to find them and stuff's a little cheesy. Like those two things right there brings the score down. But I did overall like this movie. And I did come out of the movie theater going, you know what? I didn't waste my time. So, hey, guys, why don't y'all go give the movie a chance? Go check it out yourself. Get your own feelings about it. See where you probably would rate it in like your rating system, however you kind of like look at movies and judge them. And let me know in the comments below, man. Like, subscribe if you can. You could join the Patreon and join me on some movie reviews possibly and stuff like that according on to the tier. But, hey, man, we had a super great hangout last night, actually, with the Patreons, man. I just feel like a lot of those people, not just because they're supporting us and stuff, but a lot of those people I've been around, I've known for a long time, too. Feels like family, man. Thank you, guys, for being part of that. Any kind of ideas or whatever, man, all that stuff, put in the comments below. And like I said, I've always said this, and sometimes I say it multiple times when I try to get out of here because I just want to stress the fact that like every bit of your support, every bit of it matters to us, to me, especially, and everything else, just because like I like doing this. I like having fun. I like being able to interact with you guys, whether it be in the Discord or in the comments below or just wherever else we see each other, maybe at a Schmodown event or something like that. But until next time, peace.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boys.